Hi, and welcome to our service. If you're new here, you may be wondering who we are and what this church is all about. Well, the heart of the matter is this. We're a group of people doing our best to love God and love those around us. One of the ways we express this love is through worship, because our God is truly amazing. He created everything, great and small, and His love for us is incredible, powerful, and completely unconditional. We also spend time looking into His Word, the Bible, and receive practical teaching to guide us along His path in our everyday lives. But it doesn't end when the service is over. Throughout the week, we gather in groups to serve, pray, reach out to our community, and sometimes just to hang out and have fun. Life is full of challenges, and none of us are perfect. But we believe that's one of the reasons God has brought us together. We're all here to help and support each other through each step of life's journey, because nobody should have to travel alone. So thanks for joining us today. No matter who you are, we want you to know you are welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to Winchester First Church of the Nazarene. Psalm 52:9 says, "For what you have done, I will always praise you in the presence of your faithful people, and I will hope in your good name, for your name is good." Please stand and join us for worship this morning.
Sing it louder, 'cause nothing has the power to save but your name. Jesus, in your name we pray. Come and fill our hearts today. Lord, give us strength to live for you and glorify your name. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. Your name is a shelter like no other. Your name, let the nations sing it louder. 'Cause nothing has the power to save but your name. Is a strong and mighty tower. Your name is a shelter like no other. Your name, let the nations sing it louder. 'Cause nothing has the power to save but your name. But your name. But your name.
You may be seated.
Good morning. Don't you love final instructions? Final instructions before you leave earth is have Jesus in your heart. That's the best advice I can give you today. Wow. If you don't know me, I'm Pastor Dan. I'm one of the associates here. Our pastor is away. He is in beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. And he just sent me a text and said, I need you here. The air conditioner is not working. Could you please get it working? So he goes, you built this building. Why is it not working correctly? Told him that was a little bit over, 32 years ago. So I'm sure it's something else. But he is finishing some of his preparation for counseling ministry there in Colorado Springs. And he will be back this week. So he said, Dan, could you do announcements? And, we all get a bulletin. So he said, just read the bulletin to them. So I was like, well, I see that, but there are some important things we want to definitely check up on. Next week, the pastor is holding a membership class during Sunday school hour. It starts next Sunday and will probably go 3 or 4 weeks long. He always makes it 6, so just be prepared for that. But it is a good class. Hunter took it last year and he enjoyed it. And Bob and Karen aren't here, but guess what? Wednesday is IHOP for seniors, the senior youth event at IHOP. You get to go terrorize the waitresses there. I might try to make it this year. I think I'm going to make it this month. What's that? Oh, it is next Wednesday. We could have just frightened everyone, wouldn't that be? We're just giving them a rehearsal for next week, but it is the 27th. Same thing with the ladies' camp out is the 27th in Highland Food Pantry. If you guys haven't done that, that is a fun day. The Highlands Food Pantry is August the 2nd. It's a Tuesday night, and really try to get there and do that. I just love going there. They love us. We have fun, and we just have a great time serving people. We served, the last time I was there, 34 different families. Cases of food came out, and it's humbling, actually, is what a good definition of it is when you're helping others. I have to pass some bad news on today, or good news, however you look at this. Raymond Sonny Carter, who was a longtime member of our church, he passed away on Tuesday. He went to be with the Lord. Sonny was part of this church for Bob Gerald's told me last night, over 60 years. One of my I have 2 favorite Sonny stories. When Pastor Jim was here, he made me in charge of the ushers. And Sonny brought in a bunch of old pins that they used to wear that said ushers. They had ushers when we passed the offering plate around. And he gave me a batch of those, and he held those in prestige. He had them in a wooden box. And I'm sure they're around here somewhere. But he gave those to me, and I was like, wow, that was his heart. That's what he did. He was one of the lead ushers here for many, many years. And a funny story about Sonny, he came in late after the offertory was there, and we were putting it all together in the back, and he goes, Pastor Dan, here's my offertory, and he goes, could you give me change for a 20? First and only time I've ever been offered that. But the service for Sonny is at Phelps Funeral Home and on Hope Drive, and that is at 1:30 on Tuesday. So just be in prayer for the family, and he had some sons and daughters that were still around, and just be praying for them. I think I butchered the announcements well enough, so let's go to the Lord in prayer. Wait. I knew that was going to happen. Final announcement.
Okay, so correction, Ladies' Night In is July 29th and 30th. It's Friday night into Saturday morning. Close. I don't think there's a sign up in the back for that, but I think let Kathy know. Her email's on the back of the bulletin. Email her and let her know if you can make it or not. And 2 youth announcements for this week. Youth Teen Camp. What time? They're leaving here at 1:30 tomorrow. So be here by then. with your youth that are going to teen camp and be here by 5:30 Thursday to pick them up, because Shannon and Melissa don't want extra teenagers. Thanks, Fred. And then
You never do that for me, Fred.
and then on Saturday from 2 to 6 at the Gomez home is a youth pool party. So I will be chaperoning that. Pastor Tim and Heather, they're not able to be there. So if you need directions, information, you can text them and they can forward you my number. You can get in touch with me, or Daryl and Melinda are back there. You can ask them for more specifics. Bring a lawn chair, obviously your swimsuit and a towel. Do they bring your favorite snack and drink, or? Okay, sounds good. So more details to be continued, but that is on Saturday from 2 to 4, and the drop-off will be at their house. If you need their address, then just see me after church.
I really should have just delegated that and gave her the mic to begin with. Fred, you could have helped me out right there. That was a good one. All right, never mind. All right, let's pray. Jesus, thank you for Sunday morning. We thank you for coming here and this church, Lord, and ministering to our hearts so far, Lord, and through song and worship. And Lord, I just pray that we could just put our week aside, that we could just settle down and settle in. And Lord, may we just truly glorify you. Lord, we have a list of praises and prayer requests. Lord, we pray for our pastor and his wife. We just pray, Lord, where they're at, that you could restore their hearts. That, Lord, you could just equip them, help them to be better equipped for ministry, Lord. Lord, we love our pastor. And, Lord, we're missing him this morning. But, Lord, I just pray you put your protective hands around him. Help him, Jesus. Just give him some great time off. Show him your great beauty that's in the mountains there. And, Lord, we just pray for the rest of us that we could just be ministered by your Spirit today. And we ask this in your name. And all of God's people said, amen. All right, kids, are you ready for mission? All right, here we go. If you have spare change, please get it out now. The kids will be around to collect it. Thank you.
Please stand and continue worshiping with us.
hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When He shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in Him be found, dressed in His righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, He is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, He is my song. You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, down. You're never gonna let me 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 down. You're good, good. Oh, you are 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 good, good. Oh. When the night is holding on to me, God is holding on. When the night is holding on to me, God is holding There's a place where mercy reigns and never dies. There's a place where streams of grace flow deep and wide. All the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in all of you. I'm in all of you. Where your love ran red, my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. Where sin and shame are powerless. My heart has peace with God and forgiveness.
My name is David Kinnaman, and I'm an author and a researcher. The statistics are showing that young people are leaving the church in staggering numbers, and I just felt compelled to figure out why.
Hello, I live in New York City, and this is how the church lost me.
Growing up in church, I think I just got too close and understood how it worked the way somebody understands how a business works.
It's just not real or relevant to me anymore.
I don't think God was who I made him.
You have a new generation that's asking questions, and they feel as though those questions aren't being responded with honest answers.
I consider myself to have a really great relationship with God. I don't have it in the way that my mom sees.
The result, it's pretty obvious. Young people are leaving the church, and in some cases, they're even losing their faith.
I don't know if Jesus was the Son of God. That pretty much means I'm not Christian, right?
I am still a Christian, I just don't go to church anymore.
Honestly, I think it's time that we start a real conversation.
We just need to start talking.
Let's start talking.
It needs to be okay to say, "You lost me," and not have everyone freak out.
You lost me doesn't necessarily mean forever.
Young people need to express their frustrations, their doubts, their questions, and older Christians need a place to learn and to be heard.
It's about being able to bring up a question about evolution or sexuality without just having a Bible thrown in.
Look, let's just get it out on the table.
You lost me. You lost me.
Lost me.
And let's get this conversation started. Visit youlostmebook.com and let's start this conversation.
Is it on now? Okay. Thank you, Hunter. There's a reason why I don't serve on the tech team. Sometimes Tim will let me click buttons, but that's about it. So today it's going to look a little different. We're going to mix things up a little bit this Sunday because I'm going to be asking maybe some difficult questions. Some of you may feel conviction, which is good, which is what I want, but it's hard. It's hard to be convicted. It's hard to admit when something that you're doing is not in line with what God is telling you to do. And it's challenging. We all don't like to be told we're wrong. Some of us have trouble taking some negative criticism, but that's okay because it challenges us and it makes us grow. So we need to be convicted. Tim says that when we argue, I never like to admit I'm wrong, which I could say the same about him. But sometimes we do need to admit we're wrong, and we do need to apologize for things that are going on in our life or things we are not doing that God is calling us to do. So today I'm going to be making a call to you guys. I'm going to be challenging you to step up in maybe a way you haven't thought of before. As many of you know, I have a very big heart for the youth of our world, hence why I'm a youth pastor, hence why I'm a middle school counselor, is because I want the youth of the world to see what Jesus looks like. I want to be that example to them. I want to love them in a way that the world sometimes doesn't. I want them to see value in themselves in a way the world does not tell them that they are valued. And the youth of the world, they need us. They need the adults to step up and live that way for them. So the youth of today are the church of today. They're not the church. They're the church of today and the church of tomorrow. A lot of times we hear the phrase, the youth are not the church of tomorrow, but they are the church of today. But they are also the church for tomorrow because they are our future. They are the future of the church. And when we invest in them, we are investing in our future. So youth ministry is important. And because we are kingdom builders, we cannot build anything without a firm foundation. And that firm foundation starts in youth ministry. It's established during a teen's identity forming years, and that starts when a kid is preteen age all the way up to the age of 18. A lot of times during this stage of life, they are struggling to figure out, who am I? How do I fit in this world? What is my purpose? And these are difficult questions to ask and difficult questions to kind of go out and explore. And a lot of teens struggle with self-identity. They struggle with self-esteem, and they put their identity in things that are not of Christ, but are instead of this world. And that's where we see brokenness. So many youth today's world are struggling with identity development because of the lack of connection with a youth or a church community. Many teenagers that I work with in the schools say they are Christians, but then they aren't connected with a church. So then their actions in the community, in the schools, do not reflect what they are saying. And a lot of times us adults are the same way. Our actions do not reflect what we are preaching. So we need to help these teens connect with the church. Now, what does it mean to be the church of today's younger generation? In the church, this is kind of something that's on my heart as well as Pastor Tim's heart. And I remember Tim struggling with this question and researching this question all throughout his college career. He wrote many good papers on it that I read. So what does it mean to be a church? We are seeing in the church today young adults leaving the church at an alarming rate. A very high rate of young adults will graduate and go off into the world and not come back. Many of these young adults that are leaving the church grew up in the church. They grew up doing all the things that our teens love to do. They grew up going to camps. They grew up going to Sunday school, youth group, youth events, hanging out with their friends from church. They grew up doing all of these wonderful things and being taught about Jesus, but then they leave and they lose that connection, and a lot of them don't come back. Many of these youth have even expressed callings into ministry. I remember when I grew up going to teen camp, he's my cousin. He only came to camp a few years. Whenever we would bring him, he expressed wanting to grow up and wanting to be a missionary. But then throughout his life, he didn't stay connected with the church. So now that calling that he had when he was young is something that he no longer pursues. So our teens grow up, they go out into this world, and we lose them. They're no longer connected with the church, and sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes they want to be connected with a church, but they can't find that connection. They leave home, they'll go out into the military, start work, or go to college, and they do not have anyone anymore holding them accountable and encouraging them to go to church. How many of your parents dragged you to church? Every Sunday, Wednesday, youth group, my butt was in church. And then that wasn't just because I was a pastor's kid, but that's because they wanted to establish that foundation in my life. They even had this rule that when I got a job, senior year, I got a job at Checkers, I could not work on Wednesdays or Sundays because Wednesdays were youth group, Sundays were church. So there was that rule. I also could not work during certain youth events. I had to attend those youth events, so I had to request off. So they established that for me from the very beginning, and I've been able to continue living that throughout my adult life. They also had this rule with dating, and this is a good thing for parents to hear. When I started dating, per se, I don't think I really dated anyone until college, and that was Tim, and then I was kind of stuck with him. So I never actually went on a real date until I went with Tim. But because my parents' rule with dating was that the dating either had to be at youth group, where my mom was the leader and could watch everything, or it had to be like in a group with other friends. And they had to know everything about where we were going, what time we were going, what time we were coming back. And all the friends that I hung out with also went to youth group, so my mom could find everything out. So, little tidbit for parents. So to church today, we are experiencing a crisis of getting our young people connected. I know when I went away to college, there were a few years I wasn't really connected anywhere. So about 2 years, my freshman and junior year of college, Tim and I, or I went with some of my friends, we would like bounce around to churches in our area. And there was like a ton of Nazarene churches up in the Boston area that we could bounce around to. But I never really found a church that really connected with me, people who actually invested in me, until about my junior year of college. And that was also the year that I started youth ministry. So it's hard to get connected. Some youth go out and they genuinely try. They try to find a church. They try to find people to hold them accountable. But then the church doesn't live up to that. The church isn't stepping up and being Jesus to these people. Some young adults tried, but there's nothing for them. Or they felt like the questions they were asking weren't being answered. Or that why would they even ask that? Like, are they Christian? Did they not grow up in church? They feel judged for coming to church. Or they have doubts, and they don't feel like they're in a comfortable community where they can express those doubts. Having doubts in our faith is a natural progression of our faith, because when we doubt, that's when we question things, and that's when we search for answers, and we can find those answers in Scripture, and we can also find those answers with the leaders in our life who are showing us who Christ is. That's my baby. So many young adults also in our world did not grow up having the opportunity to build that firm foundation. They would come to church on Easter or Christmas with their parents, or they would come to church maybe every other week, but only to church, not to youth group things. They didn't have the opportunity to build that firm foundation and to experience God at a young age. So it makes it even more difficult to keep that going when you go into adulthood. I remember in my youth group, like all those 90s style posters everywhere. Well, we had those all over our youth room. Which we thought were the coolest things, but today they would be considered ugly. So we had these 90s styles posters, and one of the posters said, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. So if you are not standing firm in your faith, you will fall for anything. And we can see that pattern in the world today. We can see the youth of our world falling for something because we haven't helped them establish that foundation. So when they don't have anything to stand firm on, when they do fall for the world, that's when they leave. And they no longer want to be with the church. The church today, again, is experiencing a crisis. And if we, as followers of Christ, do not make a change, then there might not be a church one day. Because the youth are our future. This is why youth ministry is so important. This is why Tim and I pour our heart and soul into our youth, because it is so important for them to know who Christ is at a young age. This is why it is important for you to invest in youth ministry, important for us to invest in our youth leaders, because they are helping to train up the next generation of Christian leaders. And sometimes we need to be reminded about how important it is. I know as a youth pastor, I get burnt out. I get tired. You know, when you give your heart and soul to something and then something goes wrong, or if there's a Wednesday when no one is listening to you, you kind of feel like, what's the point of this? The point is because we're establishing Christ in them. It is also important for church to be made a priority in our homes. If church isn't a priority in our homes, then it's not going to be priority for our kids. Kids grow up watching us. That's how they learn behaviors. They learn behaviors from watching their parents. And that is something I am learning more and more, because Lincoln's a little monster. I try not to train him like that. He has my energy. He copies every single thing I say and do. So, for example, like when Lily's screaming her head off, sometimes I'll go, wah, like back to her to like joke her. So Lincoln started going up to her face, like really close to her face, and just crying in her face to try and make her stop crying. I'm like, you gotta give her some space, dude. Or he will see that, you know, I feed her sometimes, and he knows she gets fed with a bottle sometimes. So he'll find a random bottle. Sometimes it has very old milk in it. And he'll try to stick it in her mouth. I'm like, Lincoln, no, that'll make her sick. Please don't do that. Or, here's another funny thing. I'll yell Tim in the house. Like, Tim, I need you. Lincoln will stop what he's doing, drop off his toys, and yell, Tim. So now Tim is getting me back by making Lincoln scream, Heather. So kids copy us. So when we're not making a church a priority, they're not going to make church a priority in their adult life. A child will learn what is important to them and what is not important to them at a very early age. And youth and young adults are desperate. They are desperate for the adults in their lives to show up and to invest in them. Statistics show, and this is a study put on by the Barna Group. It is a Christian research group that studies the trends in the church communities, and they've studied the Nazarene Church. Statistics show that 50 to 70% of young adults who grow up in church no longer attend. Think about that statistic, 50 to 70%. Think about our kids in our church. What if 50 to 70% of them no longer went to church when they were adults? That will personally break my heart. I don't know about you. And I can see that's true. It was true in my own life, because I didn't go to church for like maybe 2 years. I bounced around, but I wasn't a consistent churchgoer when I went away to college. And it was also true in my friends' lives. A lot of them no longer go to church. And it was also true in my sisters' lives. I have two sisters. I have a twin sister and a little sister. They still believe in God. They are still Christians, or say that they are Christians. But they no longer attend church. And that's something that's difficult for me, because obviously I want the best for my sisters. Because they are some of the most important people in the world, even though they are very mean to me sometimes. But I want the best for them. And growing up in the church building is a hospital. It is full of broken people. It is full of imperfect people, people who make mistakes. And sometimes we hurt each other without knowing, or by accident, or maybe we did know that we hurt someone. And growing up as a pastor's kid, you see the hurt, and you see people who are supposed to be, you know, your examples, not living as an example, being malicious to each other. I would see my dad just like get so upset or just frustrated or burnt out that he doubted ministry. And I've seen that in my own life. So how are we as the church loving each other in the church? So growing up, my sisters saw this, and then they grew up and they said, I want no part of it. And that's what many of our kids see. So it isn't because my sisters don't believe in God. They do. It's because the church lost them. And this is a phrase that we hear from our young people today, is the church lost me. They have seen the hurt by people in church. They don't see the value in going anymore. Why would I go? Why would I bring my children to a place that's going to hurt them? And that's not what we are. We are not a church that's meant to hurt each other. We are a church that holds each other accountable and to love each other. We are called to love. That is the greatest commandment in the Bible. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus said it's love. So if we are truly going to be the missional church, if we are truly going to be living the Great Commission that Jesus challenged us to live out before he ascended into heaven, if we are going to be the missional church, then our mission field is the young people of this world. You do not need to go out to a third world country to serve and be considered a missionary. You need to be here. You need to be in your community, and you need to be investing in young people. They are our mission field today. So the purpose of youth and young adult ministry is to connect them with the mission of the church. If we do not connect with them, if we are not willing to discuss the difficult questions that they have, and trust me, they have a lot of difficult questions, and it's okay to not have all the answers. They do not have a place where they can express that, we are going to lose them. Now, we have an amazing church. We have an amazing group of youth. Like, I am so proud of our teens in our youth group. And our teens are always willing to serve. Like, they're always in a servant role. They are the first to volunteer to be on the tech team. I remember when Tim and I were talking about needing tech workers, kids in our youth group were coming up to Tim and me and were like, I want to serve. I want to learn how to do this. And we were thankful we got some of our youth involved. They take out the trash. I don't like taking out trash. So I have many boys in youth group who do that for me. They volunteer, they help whenever they are asked. I know this morning I was trying to set up, obviously, for the sermon, and I just got Daniel Remy. I'm like, hey, can you run to the youth house to grab this for me? Immediately they were like, yes. Ran to the youth house, grabbed me what I needed, came back. They are always willing to help. Or sometimes they are just expected to serve because they're in that role all the time. And we need our teens. Again, our teens are our future. Our teens minister to us, minister to me in such a huge way. And I'm going to kind of give you some examples of how our teens serve. Miss Ava last week saw Lincoln basically having a little meltdown, and I was kind of busy with his sister. So she volunteered to just take him and help me calm him down because she saw that I needed help. She stepped up to be there when I needed her. Daniel and Remy are always willing to serve in children's. They even just go and grab a kid's hand during the money march and help them walk around. Like, they are ready to be that example to the kids. Hunter, he's the guy I always ask to take out the trash. He's the one with the muscle. We have like a giant trash can in our youth house. I can't lift that out. So Hunter's always willing to do that for me and to help me with anything else. He also always takes Lincoln for me. Quinn, Malachi, and Alex. Quinn and Alex are always early to church when they come to church. They are there, like we'll be driving into the parking lot for youth group, and we're like, of course, they're already there. We don't even have a minute to set things up because they are there, but they help us, and they help us unload our car. If we have anything in our car, they help us set up, stuff like that, whenever we need help. Quinn even volunteers his dad to buy us pizza. Such a servant's heart. Savannah and Kelsey, what was it, a few weeks ago, they were super excited to volunteer and help put out the flags. They're also always volunteering with children. I mean, in the nursery today, Kelsey came back because Liliana had a blowout. I had her in this beautiful dress. But Liliana had a blowout, so she came back with me to help me clean up Liliana. I don't know who would volunteer to do that. I definitely would not volunteer to do that. Alicia and Allie are always willing to serve and worship. Crystal and Courtney are always available to hold a baby when anyone needs them. The teens even hold me accountable. When we were setting up for the church picnic back in May, I stopped to take a little bit break. It was very, very hot that day, and we had to set up all these canopies, tables, chairs. So I stopped for a minute to take a break, and Hunter comes over to me. He's like, "You know you have another canopy to set up, right?" I'm like, yes, I'll go do that. So they hold me accountable. So our kids are constantly serving, but how are we as the adults being the example of that? How are we ministering to them? David Kinnaman, he was the author of You Lost Me, and if you guys ever need to do a study on young adult ministry, that is the book to read. Says to follow Jesus, young adults and teens in the next generation, just like the generation before them, will have to learn humility. For whom will they learn it? When they look at us, do they see humble servants and eager students of the master? Or do they see something else? I have been a youth pastor for 7 years now, and I've had many teens come and go throughout my youth ministry. Many of the teens that I ministered to when I first started ministry have graduated college, which makes me feel old, and I'm not even 30 yet. I know. I don't want to be 30. Anyways, I've had conversations with teens who said they no longer attend church because they don't see Jesus in the church. They were once a very active teen, attending every event, coming to every church youth group, every youth night, every Sunday school. They asked questions. They confided in me. I knew what they were struggling with, and I tried to invest in them. But then they see what's going on in church, people who are supposed to be leaders. They were watching the adults in the church that they looked up to. And these adults did not want to have these deep conversations with them. But instead, their conversations were politically based. A lot of times, we express our faith through our political stance. And that's not what Jesus did. So how do we recover from that? They did not see love. They only saw us hating each other. They saw a church divided. How do we recover from that? The young people who are disconnecting from the church, they are not just a statistic. They are more than the 50 to 70% statistic. They are real people with real stories, with real hurt, with real questions. Emma is a student from Lexington, Kentucky, and she says this: I want you to be someone I want to grow up to be like. I want you to step up and live by the Bible's standards. I want you to be inexplicably generous, unbelievably faithful, and radically committed. I want you to be a noticeably better person than my teacher, or my atheist doctor, or even my Hindu next door neighbor. I want you to sell all you have and give it to the poor. I want you to not worry about your health like you are afraid of dying. I want you to live like you actually believe in the God you preach about. I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be like Jesus, and that's when I'll start listening. Many times our students are seeing unconditional love. Many times our students are not seeing the unconditional love and the love of the servant image, the image of a servant, they're not seeing it in church, but they are seeing it from people outside of church. The people who are not Christians are forgiving them. The people who are not Christians are serving them. The people who are not Christians are giving them unconditional love. So how can we lead them to Jesus if we're not living like the other people investing in their life? They feel welcomed and loved in many places that are not the church. And sometimes that leads them down a road that hurts them or hurts their soul. The church who makes youth and young adult ministry a priority are embracing the call to make disciples and live as servants. Now, during the earthly ministry of Jesus, he modeled true servanthood for us, particularly on the night of his arrest when he could have just focused on himself. I mean, if you were going to die the next day, I probably would be just, eating a ton of food and, pampering myself like the last hurrah. But Jesus did not do that. He could have focused on himself. Instead, he focused on others. And our passage today is in John 13, and it indicates that Jesus' actions that night that were motivated for his love for his disciples. So if you want to turn to your Bibles, we will be reading from John 13, 1 through 17. It will also be on the screen. Okay. John 13, 1 through 17 says, "It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in this world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. The evening meal was served, and the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said, 'Lord, are you going to wash my feet?' Jesus replied, 'You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand.' 'No,' said Peter, 'you shall never wash my feet.' Jesus answered, 'Unless I wash you, you have no part of me.' 'Then, Lord,' Simon Peter replied, 'not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well.' Jesus answered, 'A person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you.' For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. 'Do you understand what I have done for you?' he asked them. 'You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for others. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.'" So the Old Testament has many references to this whole foot washing thing. It was kind of like the first act before you enter someone's tent or someone's home. Back then, they didn't have really like closed-toe shoes. They wore sandals. It was dusty. They didn't have nice paved roads. So back then, they wore only sandals, and this washing was refreshing for someone who had been on a long journey, as well as clean. It helped clean them. In the case of ordinary people who did not have tons of money, the host would bring the water to them, and the guest washed their own feet. But in the richer houses, the washing was done by a slave. It was looked upon as the lowliest of all service. I mean, who wants to wash everyone's dirty, yucky feet? I mean, feet are kind of gross. So it was looked on as the lowliest of all services, and on the last evening of his life, Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Their pride, heightened by the anticipations of the place in the messianic kingdom that they were going to receive for being followers of Christ, prevented them from doing this service to each other. A lot of times when we are in a leadership role, we kind of elevate ourselves above others. And that's not what leadership is, and that's what Jesus was trying to show them. Possibly the same pride that expressed itself on this same evening in a controversy was also in the controversy about certain places at the table, because obviously the most important person gets to sit next to Jesus. Jesus, conscious of who he was, he knew he was the Son of God. He knew of his divine dignity, and against Peter's protest, he performed for them this lowliest of service. His act of humility actually cleansed their hearts of their selfish ambition and killed their pride and taught them a lesson of love. We don't like people serving us, right? It's awkward. I know when I was a senior in high school, I went to a leadership conference at Eastern Nazarene College, and on the very last day before we all got in our vans to go home, we sat in a group. I mean, we spent the whole weekend learning how to be leaders, lots of challenges, what leadership roles were, different leadership roles. And then we got with our group. I was with the Philadelphia district at that time, so I got with my group, and we all sat in a circle, and we prayed for each other, and we washed each other's feet. So we spent this whole weekend learning how to serve others, and then we had to learn to be served. And that's the example we need to set for our teens. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable someone touching your feet, right? Some of us are more ticklish than others. There's a reason why I struggled to get pedicures. And I want my kids to grow up in a world where the adults that they look up to are the ones who live out acts of love and service. Love is not a description word. It's not a feeling. It is an action. And I want my kids growing up seeing that action. So I warned the teens about this because I wanted them to be prepared. But I'm going to invite all the teens up. Come on, Ava, Hunter. Who else is in here? See, a lot of the teens kind of ran to hide in children's and nursery because they knew I was doing this. Courtney, Alicia, Luke, Crystalline. Friend of Courtney, Alicia, Luke, and Crystalline. Orion. Who else do I see? Kelsey. Kelsey's trying to hide from me. Oh, see, I told you I was going to tell on you. Come on, Kels. I had many conversations with you about this, Kelsey. See, it's difficult to be served, and I'm trying to serve them. They don't want to be served. Kelsey, come on. Nice try. Look, your mom's helping me. There we go. Is every chair filled? I have all teens, right? Luke, you're going to break my heart, dude. It's fine. I'm going to get you next weekend. I'll pay you back. Oh, look, Melissa got a chair for you. Okay. So I had this talk with them Wednesday night and this morning, and I was kind of, oh, Ryan, what are you doing, dude? Quinn, Savannah. Yay, they're coming. All my children. I'll meet you at Sheets. They were trying really hard to get out of this. All right, if you have shoes and socks on, take them off. Take them off. It's okay. I'm the only one that's going to see your feet. Just take them off.
I thought we had a deal.
We did. It's broken now. Okay, I had this talk with them Wednesday night. And we were talking about love, and we also talked about this morning what love means. And I want to be the example for you guys. I want to be that example of leadership and love for you guys, so that you guys can go out in the world and you guys can do this for other people. So, Dave, can you play us some worship music, please? So are we willing to have those deep conversations with our kids? Are we willing to serve the youth? Are we willing to be that example of leadership to them? Are we willing to wash their feet? These teens are these amazing youth kids. And I love you guys so much. I know this was hard working for them. Because sometimes love is harder to come to. And I'm trying to be the example of Jesus too. And I tell them if I'm ever not, I need them to tell me so I can be better. So the church has a challenge. I'm calling you guys to step up and to be Jesus to our kids, to serve them, just as Jesus taught his disciples that night. Let us pray. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for this day and for bringing us all here in this place to hear your word, God. And God, and I pray for our kids, our teens, our young adults. God, I pray that we are the people that goes out and that shows you to them, shows your heart to them through our actions, God. God, I pray that we are challenged to have those difficult conversations, that we are challenged to show them what it means to be Jesus to a very hurting world. And God, I pray for all those who are not connected to a church anymore, and that we are able to be the church that connects them, that we are able to live out what you have called us out to do. God, I pray that we become the missional church. I pray that our mission field is ready to receive you. I pray for the hearts of our youth as they go out in schools and the community to camps, and that they're able to establish that firm foundation at a young age, so when they grow up and they leave us, God, I pray that they're able to continue to grow their faith. God, I pray that as we leave here today, no matter where we go, that we're able to live for you, God. And I pray this on your name. Amen. You're dismissed.
The greatness of your renown. I have heard of the majesty and wonder of you, King of heaven. In humility I bow as your love and wave after wave crashes over me, crashes over me. For you are for us, you are not against us. Champion of heaven, you made a way for all to